When we do go in and focus on the root cause of the issue, then we can fix the premium, which is ultimately going to save them money. What is the cause of I'm not interested? Is it A, your value proposition, B, timing, C, budget, or D, how you sound? I don't have to be the bad guy. I don't have to go in and just sell the policy. I can go in and solve the problem. And when I do, then I have a client for life. People too often listen to respond as opposed to listening to understand. When you truly understand, you ask better questions. I give you a very real world example of something you can be doing in your approach that's going to change how you play the game and make you better received by your prospects in the marketplace. When you focus on selling the product, you are being selfish. You may think that you're doing a service to your prospect. Instead, you are making sure you get paid. Never quit prospecting. We're in a marketplace right now where everybody out there is shopping, and that means we're getting inbound. That means we're also getting reshops, and it's taking a ton of our attention and distracting us from the main goal, which is continuing to grow our business and write new business. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Power Producers Shop Talk, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. And it's been a little while. I got to tell you, I needed a break, man. We've been going hard for the last couple of years, and I just didn't have time to record. And Kyle's got a lot of stuff going on in his life. And honestly, just got back from an amazing father-son trip down to Panama to do offshore fishing in the Pacific for massive fish that I, quite frankly, taught me I'm way more out of shape than I realized. But I wanted to come back and get back in the swing of things and get this shop talk out this week because I had a really cool exchange online back and forth with my friend Josh Braun. And many of you who are in Killing Commercial know Josh because he was one of the speakers at last year's Producers in Paradise in Key West. But Josh and I think very similarly on a lot of things, and we both study Chris Voss pretty well. But one thing Josh is really, really good at is he's kind of like a Zen master. I honestly don't know if he practices Buddhism, but it seems like maybe he does, just based on the way that he approaches the sales game. And it's a really refreshing approach compared to what most of us are used to seeing out there in the marketplace. So I wanted to share a LinkedIn post, and I'm going to turn my head and read it. So if you're watching me over here, I'm reading off my screen. I'm not reading email and just telling you things, that I'm thinking at the same time, even though I'm perfectly capable of doing that. I want to read this thread or his post, and then I want to share my real world example in how that applies to commercial insurance. And then I want to share the revision he made when he made a subsequent post highlighting my post in question on his page. So the post that got me this morning, and typically when I get up in the mornings, one of the first things I do is I scroll through LinkedIn. That is a great time for me to interact. I feel like a lot of people are up, getting their day started. They're headed to the gym. But for whatever reason, there's a lot of interaction at 6 to 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's when I'm very, very active in scrolling through and interacting with other people's stuff. Whereas when I'm at my computer here in the office, a lot of the times it's me posting content and getting things out on my page. So Josh put this out this morning. It says, pop quiz. What is the cause of I'm not interested? Is it A, your value proposition, B, timing, C, budget, or D, how you sound? It's a trick question. I'm not interested is a symptom. Most salespeople focus on treating the symptom by trying to overcome the objection. That's like fixing drywall when you have a leak. Patching drywall won't cure the problem. You have to fix the leak. The cause of I'm not interested is that your message isn't interesting. What do prospects find interesting? A meaningfully different idea related to a problem or opportunity they may not know about. Your job is to ask a neutral question that makes your prospect scratch their head and think, that's a good question. Here's an example, and he names a company called Amers, which I'm assuming is a software company because Josh's background is in software. The example is Safari deletes third-party cookies every 7 days, so you can't send cart abandonment emails to 26% of your returning visitors. How are you currently retargeting shoppers who use Safari? Then shut the front door and listen. Pay attention and be curious without having an agenda. Some people will open up and want to continue the conversation. Some people won't. That's the reality of sales. It's okay either way. Attachment to how conversations should unfold causes suffering. Let what happens happen without expecting anything to happen. Set your intention by repeating your mantra, I'm not for everyone. I commented on the post and I said, people find interested people interesting. If you've heard me speak before, I say that quite a bit, and it's true. His question shows genuine thought, which will keep the dialogue going. You appear more genuinely interested in solving a problem as opposed to selling a product. Josh wrote back and said, you're the master at this, David. One of the best I've seen. Open to sharing the question you ask that makes people think. And I replied to him, I said, honestly, many times I don't know the question until I'm engaged. Mirroring is the secret sauce. If you mirror someone that is reluctant to engage, then they end up giving you enough in most cases. Usually I will mirror someone 2 to 3 times, then label them to show I understand them. Once I do that, it tends to be a more normal conversation, and I can ask them a question similar to yours that highlights an issue they may or may not have thought about or didn't realize there was a solution to. I'll think of a good example on my way to the office and come back and share it. Part of this also goes back to active listening. People too often listen to respond as opposed to listening to understand. When you truly understand, you ask better questions. Josh says, knowing how to make people feel seen, heard, and understood is a superpower. And my reply back to that was, I also think that has something to do with having a podcast. When you interview people and there's nothing on the line other than making sure you ask the best questions, over time, you are conditioned to ask better questions in every interaction. So when I got to the office, I did a post and tagged Josh, and here's the meat of my post. And then Josh did a subsequent post and gave a revision to what I said. But I want to share this with you because in my post, I give you a very real world example of something you can be doing in your approach that's going to change how you play the game and make you better received by your prospects in the marketplace. So my post reads, my friend Josh Braun is like the Phil Jackson of sales tactics. He is truly a Zen master. This thread below is amazingly applicable to the insurance industry because it highlights an issue I speak about all the time. People focus on selling a product instead of solving a problem. When you focus on selling the product, you are being selfish. You may think that you're doing a service to your prospect. Instead, you are making sure you get paid. Use workers' comp as an example. A business owner with a distressed account may be paying more due to poor performance. Producers see this and light up because it equates to more commission for them. Therefore, they ask for underwriting information, blast the markets, and come back with a quote and sell the deal on price. What happens next year? What have they done to fix the root cause of the issue? High premiums are one symptom of a larger problem like lack of controls, no return to work program, no pre-injury management program, and the list goes on. Focusing on those things is the easy part. You must get the prospect to allow you into that portion of the conversation. Ask thoughtful questions that they likely wouldn't hear from someone else. And so here's an example of a real world scenario that I used and was successful in getting the business. I met with the owner of an HVAC company who had an issue with their work comp program. They had issues that were suspect. In our meeting, I asked questions about the strain the increased premiums were having on the operations. The owner had difficulty quantifying the issues, so I gave him an example that is similar in framework to what Josh Braun uses in his post below. When we engaged with ABC Heating and Air, they were experiencing something similar. We found that not only were they having issues with policies and processes, but the employee benefits program they were offering wasn't as good as it could have been, causing the employees to have higher out of pocket costs when injured at home, which led to Monday morning workers' comp claims that were fraudulent. This had a negative impact on the company financially and culturally. Have you considered this in your company? You could see the light bulb go off in the prospect's mind because they had never thought of it that way. Workers' comp was a nasty expense, and they viewed benefits the same way. But it didn't end there. I continued. When we were able to help ABC, or actually, I should have said a different one, I mistyped it. When we were able to help XYZ company with pre-injury management and return to work, it helped identify some of the fraudulent claims on the front end. This subsequently brought down the cost of their workers' comp over the next couple of years, which afforded a higher contribution percent to a better benefits offering, completely eliminating the fraud. In addition to saving money, they were able to reduce turnover and adjust pricing to be more competitive, which allowed them to gain market share. Can you see a reason this wouldn't work for you? Deal done, and we never asked for underwriting information to sell a policy ahead of time. We solved a problem by choosing to listen to understand. So when I got done checking my first round of emails and interacting, on other social platforms, I went back and I saw that Josh had then reposted or did another post and tagged me in it and said, before and after, poke the bear question. When we engaged with ABC Heating and Air, they were experiencing something similar. We found that not only were they having issues with policies and processes, but the employee benefits program they were offering wasn't as good as it could have been, causing the employees to have higher out-of-pocket costs when injured at home, which led to Monday morning workers' comp claims that were fraudulent. This had a negative impact on the company financially and culturally. Have you considered this in your company? That was my question. Josh's revision was, I often see that employees have higher out-of-pocket costs when injured at home, leading to fraudulent comp claims, which can negatively impact the company financially and culturally. How have you been dealing with that? Why does this matter? Illuminating problems people don't know about is a superpower. Why? People are more persuaded by what they discover rather than what salespeople discover. What terrible, no good, very bad thing happens if your prospect does nothing? What's the waiting tax? Buyers have the answers, sellers have the questions. In response to Josh, I said, I agree with your revision. In my scenario, you could make the prospect defensive if they hadn't considered that in their company. In the revision, you're making them look you're making them look better as if they have in fact identified the issue, and then you make the assumption they are dealing with it. That puts the onus on them to tell you if they have or haven't, but it doesn't back them into a corner. Thanks for the thoughts and the shout out, Josh. So here's the thing. That's a real scenario. And many times we go in and we're looking at the workers' comp as being the issue when the workers' comp really isn't in the issue. It could be part of it. Lack of processes and procedures is contributing to the premium. The premium is the symptom. So in Josh's original scenario, the workers' comp premium would be the drywall, whereas the processes and procedures and the bad benefits would be the leak that needs to be fixed. Many times we're going to go in, we're going to get a quote because this person needs workers' comp, and we may even try to lower the amount that they're paying if we can in order to get the deal done so that we get paid, but we don't pay attention to what needs to happen to fix the root cause of the issue. When we do go in and focus on the root cause of the issue, then we can fix the premium, which is ultimately going to save them money. But in this case, it wasn't just that. Part of the things that were contributing to the workers' comp premium being high and the inflated experience mod was the fact that the company had a bare bones benefits plan. Benefits and workers' comp go hand in hand more than many times we realize. And by looking at the benefits plan and seeing that the employees had a high out-of-pocket cost associated with anything that would cause them to go to the emergency room, for example, moving residences on the weekend and straining your back lifting a couch into a U-Haul, can look strikingly similar to straining your back pulling a water heater off of the back of a box truck at a plumbing company on Monday morning, especially when there's no witnesses. So by looking at the benefits plan and then comparing that to the data we had from loss runs on the workers' comp, where we had the ability to see when claims were coming in with a large number of claims happening on Mondays and Fridays, we could triangulate the fact that some of these claims were fraudulent as a result of people being scared to file an actual injury that occurred outside the workplace on their benefits plan. They didn't have the money to do it in their mind. So instead, they put their job at risk and criminal activity for that matter by filing a fraudulent workers' comp claim. But by looking at that and realizing if we can come in and put processes and procedures in place to help you bring down the cost of your comp first, you can take the savings on the workers' comp and use it to increase the contribution on the benefits plan and to increase the coverage on the benefits plan, which is going to make less out of pocket for your team members. It's a more robust benefits plan for recruiting new people into your operation. And also, they don't want to go somewhere else because a lot of the other contracting companies think the same way. They don't want to go back to a worse benefits plan. So it helped kill turnover. And when these things happen, the operation became more efficient. When the operation became more efficient, they were able to focus on pricing and bring some of their pricing down to make them more competitive in the marketplace, which then allowed them to have market share increases. And ultimately, the company grew and grew much more profitably. See, the difference in the thought process is I went in wanting to help a company grow profitably by solving the problems that were keeping that from happening, as opposed to going in and selling a workers' compensation plan or a benefits plan that was simply going to cure a symptom, but ultimately make sure that I got paid. What happens is in these situations, I don't have to be the bad guy. I don't have to go in and just sell the policy. I can go in and solve the problem. And when I do, then I have a client for life. That client, thankfully, has been on the books for several years now. We have a great relationship. Their market share continues to increase. Their mod continues to drop, and their employees continue to remain happy. So as you go out this next week and prospect, I challenge you to think about what are the questions you can ask your competition won't? What are the questions you can ask that are more surrounding the problem as opposed to the symptom? And then what offerings do you have that's going to solve that problem for that prospect? Because ultimately, that's what's going to get you hired by an account that will be loyal to you for the rest of the time you're in the business. I hope you have a great week. Have a great weekend. Get rested and relaxed. We're in a bad market right now, and I think everybody out there knows that. But the last thing I want to leave you with is never quit prospecting. We're in a marketplace right now where everybody out there is shopping, and that means we're getting inbound. That means we're also getting reshops, and it's taking a ton of our attention and distracting us from the main goal, which is continuing to grow our business and write new business. Now, retention is important, and I completely agree. But inbound, I'm not a big fan of inbound because we can't really control who it is. And many times we're getting distracted by price shoppers that are not our ideal prospect in industries we're not the best at writing. And that is coming at the expense of our pipeline. What I mean by that is if you're not prospecting now and you're focusing on those other things, artificially, you seem like you're busy. You seem like you're writing more business when the reality is you're not really writing the business you want to write, and your close rates are lower because you're dealing with a transactional process on an inbound lead as opposed to building value at the point of sale that you get from regular prospecting. If you push through and you do your prospecting now, you're still going to have a pipeline when the market turns, and it's going to be more difficult to get opportunities. But if you focus on inbound and you focus on reshops only, and you're not out prospecting, when the market turns, you're going to be in trouble because your pipeline is going to be non-existent, and you're going to be starting over from scratch when the people who pushed through and prospected are going to be out having meetings on a regular basis. It's the ant and the grasshopper, my friends. I did a solo episode on this a few months back, and I continue to harp on it. You got to prepare in the hard times and the easy times. It can't just be one or the other. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time. See ya.